Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. My name is Marty Fox from WHITEFOX. Now, here's the deal.
Another episode of With the Fox, Marty Fox. He's got his Peaky Blinders on today. For those who are listening who can't see the visual medium, he's got the Peaky on today, feeling good. And
Feeling great.
We're joined by a man who wears many hats, a man of many talents. He's an ARIA Award winner. He's a restaurateur. He's a DJ. He's a businessman. If I missed something, there's something else you do. Grant Smillie.
Doesn't age.
Bloody good to have you in here.
Please. Wouldn't that be just magnificent?
Reversing the signs of aging. Mate, great to have you with us.
Good to be here.
The story is long and interesting and colourful. You've just had such a fascinating life. And I want to start because for me personally, growing up in Melbourne, the first time I came across you was in around the end of 2000. I finished school. I'm 18 and I'm starting to club. It's club times.
Good time.
And in Melbourne, you are, I didn't know this at the time, but you're the man and you're starting to play venues like Seven, Prince of Wales, some of the biggest spots in Melbourne. What do you remember?
And some of my most nostalgic moments of life, genuinely,
Correct.
is being in the venues, Grant's playing, and it was the moment when I met my wife. Like,
Yes.
I remember the songs coming out, and
That's
it was
right.
just my favourite time of, like, just living, like genuinely just living.
I agree. I think no mobile phones in terms
true.
of what's your memory of that time? Tell us about your journey into club DJing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I was just enjoyed the journey. I think I was making music as a kid, and funnily enough, I almost didn't DJ. I had a lot of mates that were DJing, and I felt like they were pretty good at it. They were very good at it, to be honest. And I didn't want to step on their toes. And I was collecting at home and playing records, and I was like, this is fun. But then I actually have to have a conversation with them and say, hey, listen,
Do you mind if I do it?
pretty much. Because it was kind of like it was like my best mates. And I thought this could cause some friction because I was promoting running clubs. So it was kind of like you never want to step on someone else's toes.
So when you were promoting, who were you promoting for?
Mate, most of the big clubs around at the time. I mean, I sort of was just one of those hustlers that used to go and find. Peter Raff his dad used to run a fruit market at Melbourne Uni, and used to go and stick passes in the things. People go and buy fruit, and I'd pick up my pass and have my GS on the back, and you get $1 every time someone would use it at the door. Like we're not putting on deposits on houses off this stuff, Marty.
Yeah.
But it was at the time what you're doing is really giving access to people.
Yeah.
And for
Making
me,
them feel special.
yeah,
Service.
for sure. But then it was also, you were sending faxes to, crazy stuff that you used to do back in the day, and you'd be on the door with these guest lists that was so wildly inefficient. But we were running some great clubs, and at some point I decided that running the clubs or promoting the clubs probably wasn't just enough. Like, playing records was way more enjoyable, or having a hybrid model where you could at least put your own future in your own hands. If you ran your own night, you could also put yourself on if you wanted to.
But that's that entrepreneurial instinct straight away there and then.
For sure.
You've seen what your mates were doing. You were already promoting, and your mind was just shifting to, well, I could actually be promoting myself and playing.
For sure. Your destiny's in your own hands. Put it that way.
So tell us about, because let's take a club like Sevens. For those who don't know, this is in South Melbourne. It's a very odd spot. It's like in the middle of office buildings effectively,
Under an oil
but
building.
pumped every week.
Yeah.
So you're now playing there. You're seeing lines out the door and money going over the bar like hand over fist. Because back then, it's just so different to today. People don't understand. The clubbing was the thing. You went out every Tuesday, you went out every Thursday, you went out every Friday. Like, that was what was going on. So what was the point? What was the trigger for you to go, all right, I can see this business is super successful and I'm part of it? Because people are coming to see you, right? So you're now a headline act. You're a big ticket item. When did that sort of shift for you in terms of now I can be part of that? Or were you having conversations with the owners already?
Oh, look, not with the owners. I mean, the owners are always going to be looking after their own interests. Like, if you weren't the owner, you're always the employee.
Yes.
And so, but we were certainly we were cognizant of the fact that we were important parts of that engine. Seven, when I was running that, I was the marketing manager. I was effectively the head promoter. I was also DJing inside it. So it was kind of my life towards the end of it. And that was in 2000. And I was running Thursdays, Saturdays, overseeing Fridays. You're there a lot, But to your point of no mobile phones and no vision, it just became like you just went at a certain time. You weren't late because you didn't want to leave your friends stranded, but also you create a community that you could come by yourself. And you create an environment which was safe and it was enjoyable and aspirational and all those kind of things.
Is it easier now with social media, or do you think it was easier back then, really utilising word of mouth?
Word of mouth was definitely more important. Like, we had You know, these days, what does a promoter's job do? You post a post on Instagram and you say, cool, we're here, whatever else it is, right?
It's almost like brand equity was more valuable back then.
For sure. And we had a network of soldiers that were like on the ground every week. You'd have 50 people working for you that would be out sending the same message.
But also there's the mystique, right? Because when someone says, you've got to go, this place is unbelievable, you don't know what it's like. Someone goes, look at this, you can go, it's not for me. You had to go there. You had to go to find out if
Absolutely.
it was good. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. But in the same reasons, like there's different reasons for visitation. Back then, like if you wanted to hear a certain song, you had to go. It wasn't on the radio. So you couldn't buy the thing. We had like, it could be a world where there's 6 months between hearing that record to it actually landing on the radio or elsewhere. So that became a driver to be there. And I think that there was the Thursday night, and once you progressed through the Thursday night, which is traditionally your uni night, into the cooler Friday night thing that was like the bit of the older generation, if you could somehow be cool and part of that community, was like, well, I've progressed. It's like anything in life. I felt like that was just a natural kind of step up. And then festivals weren't around really back then. That was the big day out or whatever else. And there was none. There was Welcome 2000, which was the hardware guys, and who else was it? I can't even remember. Mark from Future Entertainment. So those two guys were running festivals.
The Summer Days,
and that all started when you were in your prime.
Totally. And so all of a sudden, then you went from small clubs to enormous, platforms.
And what did you prefer, the club scene or the festival scene?
I mean, everyone will tell you that the clubs are cool, but the festivals are where it's at. I mean, that's where the volume of people are. And, one thing about DJing, which is great, and music for that matter, was if you're an accountant, right, and you sit there and you go and save someone $100 on their tax return, or $1,000 or $1 million, who cares? Well, maybe $1 million might be a different story, but no one stands up and applauds and goes, good on you, great.
Oh, no, I do. I'll correct you there. I'm really fucking happy with that $1 million saving.
$1 million, yes. But I think that in a job that you get this immediate reaction, you know what I mean? You play a record, you get something immediately
We see
back.
people crying of happiness.
For sure.
Like, what a feeling.
Music has that ability to connect with people.
Yeah. But see, I love that you're on, because it's just amazing how you transversed so many different things, from being a DJ to then being an award winner to then moving overseas, getting restaurants open and coming back and doing JVs with the heaviest hitters in business. You're limitless in your own capacity to think about what you can and can't do. And I find that very inspiring. And it's not reinvention, because you're always Grant Smillie. It's being able to adapt to different things because you clearly love life. It's like you actually enjoy putting yourself in situations that you may have never been in. And that's what I love in your personality. And that's actually why you're on the pod, because you don't meet many people like that can just adapt to different countries, different environments, different styles of business. And I really want to unpack how you've jumped from different things, but you've stayed consistent as Grant Smillie.
Well, I think that's probably the only thing that has been consistent is being me. But to your point, I take that, thank you for the kind words, but there's another part of that says there's maybe too much chaos, right? I have so many ideas. I've got like ideas Tourette's, right? I'll sit there and go, write it down. And it's like you wake up in the night and I can go, I'll go back to sleep now because I can revisit it. At the moment, I've probably got 5 things you're currently working on that are not in my current kind of even direction of career path trajectory I've ever had before.
Well, what makes an idea stick for you then? Because some have, and what makes the idea, essentially, when you've got that many, how do you determine which one you actually have to see to fruition?
You've got to do the diligence. You've got to understand, okay, apart from just the basic economics of it, you sit there and you run a model and you say, cool, my time or the investment capital to get it up off the ground. Do we have the resources to either acquire them or try and get this thing to a point where it can at least have the ability to understand whether it performs or it doesn't? And then it's also got to tick a box, which is, am I going to enjoy it? Like, if I'm going to have to then give this much time, is that something you really want to do? And if money's the only
and the
motivator,
people you're doing it with.
Totally. But you've also, to your point of also, so how do you traverse and find these things? Sometimes you've also just got to dive in the deep end because you figure it out.
Do you do that more often than not?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so he'll tell you.
Yeah.
We're just like running, and then we're like, fuck, that's lucky that came off.
That worked. So we had Nick Russian on the pod a while back, and similar to you in the sense of from nightclubs into sort of more entertainment, hospitality space,
And corporate.
And
Definitely.
he talked about that sort of development of the idea of, as you age as well, you've got to understand your your audience and who you're playing to, and what the kind of world is doing. And for you, I'm going to jump ahead because I want to talk about the ARIA stuff. That's really cool. But in terms of hospitality ventures, tell us about that trip to LA and where you saw the opportunity in America, because we talked off the pod about the Australian moving to New York and doing these cafes, and this is in the sort of mid-2000s.
But little would he know as well that doing those things is inspiration for others in different fields. Like Charlotte and I have spoken about, Grant moved overseas because we're planning on moving to the UK. You probably only planned to move for a year or two and it ended up being 10 years.
Well, you sold my house. It kind of burned the boat.
That'll do it.
Does it, yeah.
So tell us about the opportunity. Were you there and you go, okay, there's nothing like this in LA? Or was the idea born here and go, hey, we actually could do this in LA? What was the genesis behind EPLP?
I wasn't planning on it. It's like many things in my life. I was coming back from Miami, stopped. A guy I went to school with actually in the year below me, Dave Combies, went to school with him at Xavier. He was working over there in real estate. So he was working with Drapac, buying a bunch of dirt all through Atlanta, but he was living in LA, and he said, look, he'd had some hospitality in Melbourne as well.
What year is this?
This was 2013.
Yeah.
And he said, let's have a look at a rooftop. Have you got time to check out a rooftop? We went and grabbed a beer at the Roosevelt, talked some crap, went and stood on this thing, which was just effectively a half-constructed thing that fell over. The guy ran out of capital, so it's this kind of half-finished structure. And we stood on this thing and looked up at the Hollywood Hills in West Hollywood, and I'm like, geez, this is
prime.
This is great.
Yeah.
And then, but also, I hadn't lived in LA. I'm taking this on good blind faith of someone who had lived there.
But you've also come from Melbourne, where we've got some bloody good rooftop scenes.
Yes.
So you probably saw something that maybe they hadn't really.
It wasn't a thing.
Wasn't a thing.
But that's so
It wasn't
bizarre. Explain that. California, one of the best climates in the world in terms of the amount of sunshine they get, and there's no rooftops.
No, but I think it's part of the licensing, getting all the kind of regulatory approvals was a challenge. And to be fair, when we opened, we did a party with Radio 1, and I got a deal done with Pete Tong, and we did their 20th anniversary Radio 1 Essential Selection broadcast. And it was really cool. Went to the city, got the permits, and we had like Sven Vath and Eats Everything and Steve Angelo and all these guys all playing on this rooftop and Eric Prids, whatever it was. And I'm like, holy crap. The problem was we got the permits, well, simulcasting live back to the UK. And we had this thing from 4 till 6. I think it was PM, not AM, but you could hear the sound at like LAX. We were so loud, right? Which then every neighbor in the entire vicinity turned up on our front doors, ropeable, right?
Yes,
We are public enemy number one.
And American public ropeable. They've got pitchforks out the front.
They got guns. But we sit there and navigate this. But what it did do was create this natural barrier, because anytime anyone else wanted to open a rooftop in West Hollywood, the answer was immediately no. They're all nightclubs. Because of one event we did, and it created this.
But was your permit in perpetuity, or?
Yeah, that's the part. That's the other reason why they don't want these kind of things, because it's the license and the ability to operate that particular location is then grandfathered in. So if I'm not the operator, someone else gets the benefit of that in the event. Even if I'm a poor operator, they can then just take it over and operate however they want. So hence why they're cautious. Even if I'm the best guy on the planet,
that's valuable.
It makes it a valuable asset for sure.
Yeah.
But it did take 18 months of, time delays and opening, because we sit there and all these things you have in your budget when you sit there and you go to get that stamp, which you thought was going to be stamped. And then they'll say, we'll come back in 12 weeks. Can you come back with some additional
Do you remember what that clause or strategy was that ended up getting you that stamp?
No, we just sort of pleaded ignorance, and we're good blokes from Australia, and, look at us. And we bought Louis Tikaram, who was the Young Chef of the Year, and I went similarly, like how you find good people is like, who wants to come to California, and you recruit someone who's excellent. And we took him to the meetings and let him talk to, what he wanted to do as a chef. And you really, but to be honest, like having a rooftop restaurant bar, if you don't have a successful restaurant that supports it, people then go for an after drink or before or otherwise. You need to have the whole business humming. Otherwise, it doesn't perform.
I was going to say, what did you learn about the fact that I think that at that time, again, the uniqueness of, let's say, Melbourne, in terms of the culinary sort of offering, it wasn't sort of available there. You could get your good Mexican, you could get nice meals, but it didn't do what I think we do, which you brought over there.
Well, Southeast Asian wasn't really a thing there, but also try and explain it to them.
Yeah.
because that's another thing. They're like, what is
Well,
this stuff?
they call it Asian fusion.
They do, and it's kind of like, or Thai, whatever it is this mum and pup kind of really cheap stuff. And we're like, no, we want to charge premium prices, which caused its own sense of heartburn. But again, if you talk about reasons for visitation and why things were successful, and review that in relation to what happens today. We used to have 25% visitation from Australians. Weirdly, you go to an Australian place when they get off a plane, right? But why do you do that? You're in LA for 5 days. One is a risk-free swing at it, and you know it's probably going to be pretty cool and feels a little bit like home, but probably meeting some new people. 2, there was a whole bunch of actors that were going over there to work. Now it's all self-taping. They're not even in LA anymore to do auditions unless you really get down to a chemistry test. And these Aussies were there working there. They had to stay there, which means they were baristas, they were bartenders.
So you had Aussie staff in the Aussie venue.
staff,
How
and
good's that?
It was unreal. That does not exist anymore.
Aussie staff who are now probably someone like on Netflix shows and...
Oh,
you
they
know.
wish. There's none of those around anyway. They're all back here.
Yeah.
There's no one... The amount of like cast and crew that made us successful and the support we had from Aussies, they're no longer there.
Yes. Well, funnily enough, I was there in 2013 visiting a mate, Scotty McGregor, who was trying to be an actor at the time in LA and going to auditions. And we went around and did exactly that. And he was hanging out with guys who were washing dishes and serving beers because they were trying to be actors.
You have to survive.
That was the path. That was the path. So, okay, EPLP, and that starts kicking off. And then back here, you've got Ponyfish Island. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that opportunity, because if you've been to Melbourne and you've walked across the Yarra River, there's this space under a bridge that looks like nothing.
Which we had our Christmas party at once.
And you saw the vision of this becoming something. Tell us about
It's the most interesting venue in Melbourne. If you haven't visited Melbourne and you're coming and you're listening, you need to go to Ponyfish Island because it's just cool. Yeah. It's so Melbourne.
You step off the bridge, you're on the water.
It is. I mean, look, it was when we first came across it. It was run by a guy called Clem Newton-Brown, and he was running a kiosk down there, and he was selling ice creams and like frozen sandwiches and putting them in toasted and whatever else. And he was like, "What's it going to make for someone to take this off my hands? Because this is hard work, right?" And Andrew McKinnon came to me and said, "Do you want to come and have a look at this thing?" So we went down. And I looked at it. I mean, it didn't even have handrails around the outside. It was just, it was...
Wet, cold, open.
Yes. And you have to have, you can't secure it. So it's still to this day, you can't secure it. It's overnight security overnight all the time because you can't actually lock it up. It's a crown asset.
It's an open air.
Yeah. So we sat there and I was like, okay, what's it going to cost to get it to a pop-up state? Like maybe we can try it for a summer and see what we can do and sort of do a sublease for a little bit and just test the water. But we also then needed a bit more magic. So Jerome Barazio, who was he started Laneway Festival, but he had a bunch of little Laneway
Jerome's,
bars.
didn't he?
Yep, St. Jerome's. And a place called Shittown too. Interesting name.
Right,
separate
A venue
conversation
called
on that.
Shittown.
Yeah,
I
correct.
fucking love that.
Hence why when he was talking about the name for Ponyfish, he and Andrew were like, "Oh, it's going to be called Squid Farm," and I'm like, "Squid Farm?" Squid. And he's like, "Ponyfish." I'm like, "Oh, we just watched this Life Aquatic Steve Zissou thing, and he came across this crown ponyfish, and I'm like, ponyfish. It's half fish, half thing. Let's make this kind of story up about."
But I love how is it Ponyfish Island though?
It is an island.
It is an island. That's what I love.
Yeah, it is. And we wanted to actually at one point try and do a stunt where we're going to declare it a tax-free haven and issue passports. Still might.
That's actually a really good idea. Cool. That's one of those ones that you should do.
That's cool.
But we did one summer, and the first night we ran out of booze like 3 times. I had to run across to Coles and get whatever it was, Dan Murphy's.
But that's a venue that can be burnt in your memory, and it is burnt in mine. The sun's going down. It's a perfect Melbourne day. The city is humming, and you're at the end of Ponyfish Island. And you just think, fuck, I just want to capture this moment and never forget it. I've got that burnt in my memory. It's the perfect setting.
You're between South Bank, you're between the city. It's like in the middle of...
It's magical.
It is. I mean, look, but don't get me wrong. I could tell you some horror stories about that venue. Only insofar
flooding.
as
flooded twice.
It floods a lot. It floods every year. To be honest,
okay.
we almost built it like a boat now. But there was no power going there. It's literally the amount of brownouts, blackouts you'd have there. We would sit there going, if you turn on that outlet and then outlet in a sequence, it's like Apollo 13, go around the other side of the moon, right? We had no ice machine. You had to get daily deliveries of ice. You're walking down alcohol deliveries every day. It's like that thing. You couldn't put another fan in the thing for the staff. So
Is there even a toilet?
There's 2.
Oh.
3.
That's pretty
But it got to a point in 2010,
Shithole.
thankfully.
Shit down, shithole.
Thankfully, in 2010, Sorry, 2020. What am I saying? 2020 during COVID, we'd had all these plans done to finally give it the opportunity to have a cool room and put an ice machine in, and we got a power upgrade done. And that was the only time that we were able to do it, and there was scheduled works, and that became you could actually have scheduled works, essential works still happening. And so while I couldn't be in Melbourne, apparently all you could do was walk around the town with a bunch of coffee cups and have a good time at some point.
It was great.
But we could still progress that thing. So if they're coming off the back of the other side of it now, it actually operates like a true hospitality venue, and it's a great relief to our staff, I can tell you that. So,
On COVID, what was it like for you being overseas in America during COVID? Versus
different.
what you watched your family go through here?
You only see it. I see the horror stories. I heard the horror stories about Melbourne. COVID happened for like a week in California, and then it was pretty much like jog on, do whatever you want. I mean, there's obviously certainly around, and there was a period of there's certainly unease and kind of, but as an essential service kind of thing, we were going about. Was
Australia making the news in your part of the world, or not really?
Not really.
We're so small, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, look, not even then. I think there might have been at the very bitter end when Victoria finally was released. They said, "Oh, here's what this looks like." But because it was not even a thing over there, it was just people were flying again. It became like pretty quickly Americans were like, "Just jog on, let's just get on with it."
So having run, your own venues and started them up yourself, when's the point that people start coming to you and saying, "Grant, I want to do something with you," or "We've got this opportunity," like maybe at Marmont? Tell us about how that came about. When did that start? Because obviously you're now making noise. You've got ID Collective, which we haven't even touched on yet, where you're ideating and coming up with creative, and now you've got
for other business owners,
for other business, and then you've got these hospitality venues flourishing. Now you've got people wanting you.
I mean, it's crazy. DJ, then founder of creative agency, successful operations in LA.
Hospitality, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, you're back in Melbourne. Like, that's a great question, because opportunities and business ventures would be landing in your inbox constantly.
They do, but not all of them hold water. Pretty quickly you can sort of figure it out. And I think timing it's like anything in life. You have a certain amount of decisions, I say, in your life where a decision takes you in a direction or another. And sometimes it can have a lot of heartburn. I remember, I'll come to your question on why this one comes, but when you left, say, 7 to go to One Love, and you sit there and you go, I'm going to leave, that business may...
So I thought you meant in a night when you're going, all right, we'll go to One Love.
No, we're saying, I'm going to leave this business. Yes. I'm leaving this to go and then take that role. That's going to have a detrimental effect to that business.
Yes.
And I had a partnership with them for many years. So does it, and should it weigh heavily? Yeah, it should. But
have you found that when you leave a venture, it does tend to drop off a bit?
Generally,
yeah.
Generally. I'm not always. You always want to set them up for success. But that was not one that I know in an ownership position, which I think then you have a little bit less vested care, because it's sort of like maybe you had an opportunity to keep me around, but it didn't happen or whatever it is.
Yep.
But you still make that hard decision. And it's even like if you have to let go of your best staff member because there's for whatever reason, and you know it's going to cause your business harm, but perhaps it's the right decision to make for everyone else. So I reckon you got 20 of them in your life. And, so coming back to Melbourne on this last one, for this Marmont venture was, one, it was a little bit opportunistic. So I'd been talking to Crown and to Cunningham particularly, who used to be at the Australian Open.
Yep.
He was running the F&B for that. So we'd been talking. And it had been 10 years of, do you want to do something here? Do you want to pop up at the Merriwell? And I'm like, not really. It's not really my speed. And it's got to be the right site and the right reasons and all these things.
But by saying no for 10 years also shows that when you've landed on a yes, it is right.
For sure. I think so. But it became like the old Rosetta site. I'm like, good site. But they were already committed to something else. So It wasn't like I was already the guy that they tapped for this thing. So I always, every day in LA, I'd read every single paper in Australia just to understand what was going on, even though I'm not here. Just so I can, if you have a phone call, I know exactly what's going on. Same as America, still read the papers every day in America. So then I saw this opportunity come out. They said, we're going to launch this thing called the Henley. And the Henley was what is the space that now Marmont exists, which was going to be their own concept. And so they'd done it quietly. I was on a hospitality kind of wire, and I saw it and I rang straight away and said, what's going on? Congrats. Well done. Can't wait to come and check it out. And they said, well, funnily enough, we're not sure we're the best people to operate this. Would you be interested in jumping on a plane and having a look at it? I was like, I'll be on a plane tomorrow. So I came out, saw the site. It wasn't in construction or anything. It was just in plans, but it had all been wet stamped, ready for construction. So at that point, you're not going to sit there and say, and they had a hard timeline to open. So it was like, here's the timeline. It's going to be December.
But it's the perfect site. It's north facing. It's got the view. You're on the corner.
It opens now to the river.
It's very unique.
It's the best site there by a country mile.
Absolutely.
It's always been one that I had a soft spot for. And it was kind of like, and there was a short runway. So it became kind of, all right, go back, better pack up your crap if we're going to do it, because you can't just sit in California and say, I was going to remote control this.
How did you wrap up everything back in California?
Yeah, good question. I'd actually been sort of over the previous 6 months stepping back. Funnily enough, it was timing wise, it was good. It was business had been solid over there, but it was enough to sit there and say that it was probably a job that Dave, my business partner, was very much like capable to run the whole thing in and of itself.
Have you stayed involved, or did you go through a sell down process?
Didn't sell down. I'm still a shareholder, but I certainly don't operate on the day-to-day level of any of those kind of things. So I'm just a shareholder. And so still got certainly a vested interest. I flew back last weekend for its 10th birthday and bought the crew and, do those things. So, to sort of get to that point where you do allow yourself to not be bogged down by the other day-to-day of opportunities of those things. But came back and it was kind of like, well, the box is the box. If we don't want to go back to town planning, so it becomes like what's, soft furnishings, art, direction, naming, talent, recruiting, all that sort of stuff.
And that's what you just got hands in
straight away.
Straight
into that thing. And we had like a 5-month window from jumping on board to opening. So I was aggressive, and the most aggressive build I've ever been a part of. I mean, I
remember seeing you during it, and you were hustling.
Mate.
Like you were spitzing every time I saw you.
3 a.m. in the morning, they're trying to get off the site. I'm like, I'm not leaving, because if I leave, you're going home. So, you're staying around till the bitter end.
To the uninitiated, let's talk about this, because right now we know there's a cost of living pressure. There is a monetary pressure for people to go and spend, on those sorts of things. Now,
well, Melbourne's been in that hole for the last 2 years.
Well, exactly.
It's been a flat economy.
So take us through how you, when you're setting up a venue like this, and would you look at things like the Beverly and other venues that have opened in the last few years and go, okay, I know that people don't drink as much as they used to, so they want to drink, if they're going to drink, they want to drink nice drinks, and food has to be, in their eyes, good value and good quality. Correct me if I'm wrong. So take us through from when you're setting up Marmont, what are the big considerations you've got to have? Because it's not a guaranteed success. It's a great spot. It's got all those things. It's got your magic. But what are the things that you have to make sure you look out for?
Location is the underpinning of it all.
That's for sure. That is absolutely in this particular instance. The other thing that's kind of an interesting part of it is it's not like we opened into December. So you're going to be busy. You're going to have the Australian Open. You got F1.
Yeah.
It's the actual important part.
What was that first quarter like, just with people and Melbourne was pumping?
It was nuts, but good and bad. Like you came out of the gate at 11. We were just, you didn't have the ability to.
And you can't iron out the kinks.
No, and like the first weekend, we opened on the 18th of December, straight into that crazy, knockoff city, and you got 200 people asking for 10 different drinks at the one time, and you got these bartenders that it's their third shift, and they're like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
And so, was it a smooth start? The answer is no. We got the keys. We got into the space like straight in. It was like just gotta go. Like it's not. We'll just go so slowly.
No, there was no warm launch.
It was just a hard launch. But you figure it out. I think we're finally figured it out now. Like you figure it out by the end of your Q1. The numbers were very strong for your Q1.
Well, you're 6 months in, so does it feel like home now?
Yeah, it's somewhat normalising. Winter's going to be, again, it's been designed as a summer venue. It's a glass box that opens up, and in wintertime we'll see what the visitation is around there, I think. But I can give you 15 years of figures of Ponyfish that'll tell you it's going to retract probably 60 to 70% on top line numbers.
But see, that's actually really good from their perspective as well, because you've owned and operated a venue literally a couple hundred metres away.
Totally.
Just totally different scales, different price points.
But
so your intel is there. It's like you've got no surprises.
No, there's no surprises. But the only good part about it is in September and onwards, what we have got the ability to do there is, and I think how do you anchor venues and beyond, like, yes, cost of living is super important. So yes, you have to have at least some perceived value. You can come in there without having to break the bank and have like enough of a meal like that will satisfy you. Is an aspirational venue that you want to be in, but you don't break the bank.
Yes.
We're doing things like martini minis and whatever else. So they're $14.
I like the jalapeno Sauvignon Blanc.
You like that one?
Yeah, that was a good video. That
Just
I haven't
get a
tried
bit-
it yet.
But the problem with that, it's a good video and it's a good concept. But what it does do is you can do it at home.
Yes.
There's no real reason to come in. So I think actually properly making a martini properly, you can still do that at home, but you don't necessarily want
It's
to.
an art, yeah.
But you still got to have like beyond that.
Home won't have the energy.
Doesn't have the energy, and you got to create that. And so I'm looking to partnerships that. What does that aspirational piece look like? So why do you want to go to a venue? So for me now, I'm looking at things like what does our partnership look like with the golf, for the Australian Open golf? I'm like, I want to be at the golf this year.
Yep.
Rory's out there. I think it's a cool thing. I've got a Marmont golf collection that we've got ready to go. They've been designing for a
Fits
while.
nicely, yeah.
Which you sit there and go, look, it's nothing to do with the venue. It's just about aspirational kind of outcomes. We'll partner with the right brand to put it out. I don't care how much money it makes. It's just about how it's perceived.
Yes. But do you fight against, like, because again, you opened EPLP in 2013 and yeah, sure, Instagram's just starting up, but now influencers, is there a fatigue around, like, what do you expect out of your venue when you've got people coming through the doors who are photographing everything and putting it all online? You have not a lot of creative control over what gets put out about your venues. What's that like as an owner?
Well, you kind of do if you design the lighting right and you've got all these tools that allow them to set themselves up for success. So if you give them like menus that are kind of considered and they let you in the plateware that sort of talks to your behalf, there's a reason why we put a brand on a plate, because then you're always talking to
every
those
photo,
things.
yeah.
Same as why you have little, every table has a lamp and the lamp will give you some, support lighting in the event you don't have enough overhead. But all those things aside, people these days, the influencers of the day, you come in, host and post. I'm like, I don't know if that moves the needle anymore.
No.
I think what would move the needle the most for Grant and the venue is that, you can genuinely act locally and think globally. You can land on your global experiences and put them into this venue that maybe a lot of other operators don't have that IP. You've got that IP and you're local and you're connected and your customer base is at a point where a lot of them are spending and their businesses are kicking and they want to champion you and they want to actually get around you. So I think if there's that local feel, but with a global mindset, it's game
Plus,
set
correct me
match.
if I'm wrong, like, we're all getting older, sorry to say it, but it's like reminisce.
You're nearly
It's like
50.
reminisce. So
Yes.
reminisce, John Corse, your good friend, plays, reminisce every year, and it's that house music of
When was that? 2 months ago.
it's in March
Yeah.
every year, and it's like, for us of that generation who were clubbing in the late 90s, early 2000s, that is our music. That is our music. And so your clientele in many ways, I'm not saying there's not younger clientele, it's like at that point where they're earning okay, they can come in and they remember that world, and you're part of that.
For sure. I mean, that's one of those ones, and there's probably not many babysitters out of work that day. When everyone goes to reminisce. But they all have that kind of, but it's one day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the same reasons why when you remember so fondly those clubbing moments was because there was none of those outward pressures, and it was the most time you ever went out in your life.
True.
And your friends were all doing the same things. We're all swimming in the same direction. Now we've been pulled in 1,000 other directions, so that one day when someone plants a flag and says, hey, do you want to run it back and celebrate that old time? Everyone's like, cool, no worries. You just get there now, they're a little bit fatter, a little bit skinnier, first divorce, second divorce, whatever it is, more
Less
hair, less
hair,
hair. It's just, that's the jam. And you get there next year, you go, hope he's around.
And you had a nod to that. In fact, you've got a nod to that era of music in your current business. We Are Your Friends, one of the great tracks of that.
Yeah, it's Justice. Yeah. I mean, look, I think with music's always going to form part of whatever I do, whether I like it or don't. I think that's just part of my DNA. I still have a huge passion for it, but I just don't know if I need to go back and make it anymore.
Favorite track?
Oh, it's too hard. There's so many good records, and I think every
Most
time...
famous?
Most famous record? Mate, I'll come back to you on that one. I'll pick it up, because it's just... If it's a dance record, it's one thing, and then if there's classic records...
Got to be Lola's theme, Shapeshifters.
That's a
That's
good
one
song.
of the greats of all time.
That's a great song. I don't, like for me, my favourite TV rock record's The Others, but it's not
Yes.
even my original kind of record. We made that as a new partnership, but that was kind of an odd thing. It came across my desk as a job almost initially as a remix, and it became like this record's too good.
Well, can we talk about that? Because I was actually, bizarrely, again, we crossed paths here. I was at Nova 100 in 2005, and Nova at that time was known for doing things very differently. I took never more than two
TV
ads in
ads
a
were
row.
the
It
best.
was
How
all that
they
stuff.
explode on the scene?
They did it perfectly.
Marketing genius.
Never more than 2 ads in a row was perfect because everyone listened. But they also started playing the sort of music that others weren't. So so in a rock sense, it was like Kaiser Chiefs and the Kooks and these bands that no one would have played on Fox and Double T and whatever. And then along comes John Course and Grant Smillie doing club music on a Saturday night. Give us an insight into that because that was very new, but got huge
Well, that was
listenership
pre-drinks.
and it changed everything.
sure.
Every pre-drinks was that.
Yeah. But they didn't come and approach us.
No.
No, we went to them.
Did you?
So it was kind of like they already had some
Well,
programming.
controlling your destiny.
Well, that's right.
You said
So
it at the
it's
beginning.
Just like we're just going to make it. Let's do a demo.
Make it happen.
Let's just figure it out. Like, forget about the money. Let's talk about that later. Like, or not. It's not really about that in the short term.
And how much fun were you having?
Great. But this was at the initial stages of it. It was just Melbourne, and it became kind of cool. Here's what we do. For John and I, it was like, well, this is kind of fun. Go to a studio. Learn a bit about how to mix it down and do the voiceovers and all those kind of things, which you didn't previously understand. And then it was sort of like, hey, this is kind of working. And it became kind of, it was a late night initially, like 10 till 12.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, maybe it kept on coming earlier and earlier. So it was great because then all of a sudden it was the
did
Breeze.
it kick off at 8?
I think it was.
Yeah.
8 till 10. And then it was sometimes they even do longer ones. And then I'd find guest mixes for them. So I'd source people from around the planet. So you'd get the Tiesto mixes or Axwell mixes or
Fetty
whatever else.
Legrand.
All those guys. I'd say, send me a mix. And then all of a sudden then their PR teams would start sending. So they're Rolling Stone gathering, my job's easy because I don't have to call these guys anymore because their representatives start sending me their stuff.
Yes.
But equally, you're starting getting access to better records because you're getting radio exposure. And then for Nova, what's the cost to put it on in a different state? It became like zero cost. But then all of a sudden we're in Sydney, we're in Brisbane, and it was like, cool, did that generate gigs and opportunities out of those places? The answer is, of course, yes.
Massively, yeah. And look at it now. If you turn on any radio station after probably 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, it's dance music.
For sure.
It's mixes.
For sure.
So you started that, which is awesome. At the same time, you and Ivan are now TV Rock. Mm-hmm. So tell us about TV Rock, because this took you on another journey as well, which is a completely different journey to talking about hospitality.
Yeah, it was fun. He came to the Prince. He found me. So we went, he came in one night and I knew who he was, of course. He was a great producer. And he said, do you want to come out? It was in Donvale. And he said, do you want to come out to Donvale and have a little swing at a track? And I was like, I played sax for 10 years at school and I was certainly no stranger to music. And even playing records, you sort of understand if it sounds good, generally it's in key. If it sounds a bit odd, it's out of key. So
well, yeah, we should say you were a record player originally, not just a spin DJ, which
no.
a lot of DJs say now.
Certainly didn't enjoy this to trip up the 4th story place I was living with 2 crates of records on a Saturday night. That was fun, but that's a separate era. But we went out to Donvale. We had to play around with, I guess, low expectations. You're finding each other out. So we did a couple of little remixes. Our first remix that sort of cut through was one called Being Good for this little group called Deep Face, and they had no money, so we did it like kind of on spec, but it went top 5 ARIA Club chart straight away. Then we did one for The Fruit for Sander Kleinenberg, and that got played on like Pete Tong's Central Selection pretty much straight away. And I was like, oh, that's good.
Is that Been Good, but I could be better?
That's the one.
Yeah, what a track.
There it is. Good voice, mate. Get the audition. That'll be fun.
Taking me back to like some clubbing days. Sorry, go on.
So we did those 2. And then, I was out and about. I ran into... I was obviously going out a lot, but I ran into Dirty Laundry with Dean and Jeremy Jolson, and they had Shawnee B was their vocalist. They also had Patricia, I think was their other vocalist they had with her, with the band. But Shawnee and I was chatting at the bar, and he said, I've got this idea for a vocal, and I don't think the guys really liked it or otherwise. And so we just said, why don't you just come out and lay it out? So we went out to Donvale and just put the vocal down. And so we set a beat, and Shawnee was really good at just putting beats down, like putting vocals down. He didn't need a finished track. No. You sort of give it like, here's this structure, and you'd be like, cool, see you in a hot minute, or we'll just see how it shakes out. There's no guarantees, right? And it wasn't the sound that you know on radio, which what we put down. We're a completely different kind of sound at that time.
Yeah.
But the best part about Prince was you go play it. And you go out and you think,
test it.
Test it. This is the best feedback of all time. You don't just sit there and guess it. It was like this.
And when you saw the room bouncing, were you like, fuck, we are on?
Oh, I was more concerned about the fact that it's not bouncing. It's not. It's like the flat spots of the bits you got to fix. And it was sort of like it just didn't have enough.
Is that a real panic moment?
No. That was a burner. That record.
We're talking Flaunt It.
Yeah, Flaunt It.
Yeah.
It wasn't like just, oh, that's a hit. Like the others was a hit. The second I played it, I'm like, that's a hit. second I watched the crowd, I was like, should happen.
So
And it happened.
you've played Flaunt It, and it sort of had some flat spots.
It was like anytime you play a new record in a club, it's weird. I used to have these kind of rules where they're not a fast rule, but a great club would be 4 for me, 1 for you, 3 for me, 1 for you. So it's kind of like if I can introduce some new music into your repertoire as opposed to just hearing stuff. I know you want to hear that song, I got it, but let me do some stuff, because otherwise, if we don't hear new things, you're never going to get the breakthrough of the next big hits. Right?
But then, did Flaunt It end up becoming one of the biggest?
Yes. But
How?
initially, it was just kind of like, I'd try and sandwich it to your point. I'd go, that's a banger. I'm going to introduce this one, and then I'm going to play another banger. And so I was always being thought of, it's like, I'm still high, what's the next one? I'd be like, I'm going to set this up for success. I'm not going to try and take it from here and let it do this. Though eventually it would be that one would allow me to do that one in time. But you just play it and repetition. And at some point I go, I think this is an okay place. And then I'd give it to, let me distribute it to the top 10 guys in Melbourne and see if they want to buy into it as well. But at this point, and I think some may know the story, but we couldn't get that record signed. So we started our own record label and pressed it ourselves, because it was kind of like, sent it around. Not to say that it wouldn't get signed. Ministry or someone would have signed it to put it on a compilation CD, and it would have...
You wanted it to just be front and center, though.
Well, I want the whole package. I want the clip, I want this, and I want to know you've got some skin in the game, and you're going to have to put some money behind it. Otherwise, I'll put my own money behind it. There's no real benefit for me just signing it over to you, and then I can't control it, because then it's yours.
So when you put that song out and it goes to number 1, you're the only person behind that at that point in time from a commercial standpoint.
Yes, until it wasn't, right? So it was, okay, you send it out, you're really, really pushing. I've never pushed a record like that before. I was really just trying to shake the tree. Like when Nova was happening, we're like spin it or bin it kind of vibe. Everyone's ringing. Ring, 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 ring. Let's get this thing on the air. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's make sure, let's perceive value out in the marketplace this is enormous. But it was also like getting a lot of play. It was getting some play, and it was starting to creep up the charts. But we then promoted it properly, and we sort of sent it out to third-party guys. And I was sort of getting some buy-in internationally a little bit with it, but it never was big in America or Europe, to be honest. It was a really isolated record in Australia. But because, again, this kind of slow burn in clubs were really energized behind it at this point. And they say, at one point, though, there's this kind of, I've got to press CDs to go to market to sell it in JB Hi-Fi and the CD singles kind of thing. That's where you're going to make your money. I'm like, how many units are you going to press? I'm like, how the hell do I know? Like, we could either then overcapitalize, and you got all this stuff that's going to go literally in the bin.
It's still so fascinating thinking that one song would sit on one CD. Like it's bizarre.
Right?
It's so nuts. Like to think about that now. Like if my kids were to
Had one
learn
song.
that, they'd be like, "What are you on about?
Yes.
A whole CD that you stick in this thing that you've got to walk to the shop and buy."
$15 probably.
Yeah,
In a crystal case with an art sleeve and all this stuff.
odd,
right?
and they'd always break that
Yes.
fucking packet,
Yeah,
that
so-
stupid case.
And you got to send it to this guy.
And then it would
distribution
scratch?
site, goes out to all, like, to how many stores individually across Australia, and how many units are going to, middle of Australia, and you're going, how the hell am I going to know? So at some point we were like, hey, we've got to do a deal. We've got to do a deal. So we did a deal with Sony and said, you need to manage all that.
Yeah.
But it was only because it was number 1 on the club charts. It was doing what it needs to do. But then they've got to spin their engine, and they go, it's going to be 6 weeks to release that. I'm like, this could be out of gas in 6 weeks' time. But then radio slowly started getting behind it, slowly. So by the time we got to this point of CD release, and it was just the perfect kind of momentum of energy, you still go out to clubs to hear it. You're occasionally hearing it on radio, but you can't own it.
Yes.
You can't own it. And that became kind of, I need to put destiny in my own hands and buy this thing. I'll play it whatever the damn well I want.
Because iPods exist and Napster exists, but it's a bit of an
LimeWire, lots of
underground
stuff,
thing, isn't
but
it?
it wasn't like commercial, right?
Yeah.
And so it came out, and I think it came in at like number 3, week 1, and then it was 1, and then it was 1.
How many weeks at one?
A lot. It was the longest in the top 10 history, I think, in Australia for a very, very long time.
And how many CDs did they press, out of curiosity?
I don't know.
Do
We
you
won the
remember?
highest selling single of the year that year as the ARIA Award.
That's the ARIA, yeah.
So probably, I don't know how many singles you saw in Australia. Probably 350, 400,000.
So you're
back then.
literally picking up a trophy because of that track.
Because of that track.
It's unbelievable.
Sorry, that was the one that highest selling single in Australia. Forget all the genres. That was the number one selling single in Australia. And then we won the best dance era ARIA, because I guess you have to. It's a bit of a charity after that if you're the highest selling.
And
single,
what was
we
the
don't win.
music clip again? It was.
Oh mate, it was awful. We
I remember. It was like quite shaky.
There's dancing.
Yeah, there was shaking.
Is there
yeah.
rain or water?
No, there's no water.
It's like fuzzy.
No, we were in this
In the
warehouse at the back. We borrowed the neon tubes from Prince, and mate, it was a budget $1.80 number, but
Oh, I love that.
it didn't really matter. Like, it just did the job.
But
You got the gong.
quickly on that thing about testing it in the market. It's not a typical dance track in terms of it has those moments where you can't really dance to it in the moments when it's slow. How do you?
That's normally when you grab someone on the D floor and pash them.
I know, but
it was a good breather.
Yeah.
Or have your dart.
Have your dart,
It was actually very strategic.
It's different to some of those tracks that just a constantly steady pump, pump, pump.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, again, I think that's one of your Nova things sounds different. We sounded different.
Yeah.
That was a certain moment where there's also the ability.
But it sounds different in any decade. Like if
sure.
we play it now, it still sounds like unlike anything else.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was by design. That's probably the reason why it was ultimately successful. It was either going to connect in a massive way or it wasn't going to connect at all. And that kind of patience that people have these days, the radio edit back then might have been 3.5 minutes. It's probably 2 minutes now, because it's just they want to have everything all at once
Yep.
in a music perspective. But equally these days,
Hold on, are there radio edits for tracks
Yeah.
versus?
so I'll have a club version, which would be 5.5, 6 minutes, because I want to have an intro, be able to mix it properly, get a bit more tension, because people have a bit more latitude in a club. Whereas it's on a radio, it's like, we've got no time for that bullshit. It's got to be straight in, give us all the hits, see you later.
That's quite interesting.
There's now, like back then, they're going to sound back then. We had, I'd be playing it to people saying, hey, we're gonna press this. Even when I was doing like the vinyl piece of it, which I was still controlling, I'd be ringing like the best vinyl shops in Australia and saying, I'm going to send you 50 copies. Do you reckon you can move it, play it down the phone? You got a lot of ears on it, because it was kind of like, if I'm spending real money, I want to know that I'm going to not just sit on this thing and so it's going to deteriorate and just put a hole on my balance sheet.
Yeah.
But now it's sort of like, which is also a great thing. You can go to, anyone can have access to music making capabilities, right? You can go on, anyone has an app, a laptop, you can get a basic free download of software and you can make music. And so I'm not saying it's amazing quality, but it's unlocked the ability for people to participate, right? So what would previously be really an unachievable outcome is now within arm's reach. Doesn't have to have a top line vocal. I'm not saying you have access to Dua Lipa or you don't have those kind of things, but you certainly have the ability to express yourself.
But I personally believe the Dom Dollars and the Fishers of this world now are you of 15, 20 years ago. It's the same thing.
It's the same kind of thing, right? But what they're still having is like Fisher. I'll talk about him in 1 second, but there's now a waterfall. It's not even a waterfall. It's a cascade of music daily that hits the airwaves, right? Or not even the airwaves, just hits the internet. How do you get cut through when you've got that quantum of things hitting the market?
Totally.
Really hard. And for Fisher, I remember when I came across Losing It, was he played a festival, call it, it was Pitch or one of those ones, or maybe it was BTV, and he plays it for the first time. This video was going viral. Everyone's, what is that track? What is that track? And it wasn't me, it was globally. And it became kind of this momentum thing of saying, when's this track coming? When's this track coming? All they were doing is watching this YouTube video. And all of a sudden it goes bang.
Yeah.
Now, Dom is a bit of a different story again. He's a slower burner that sort of just continues to deliver quality. He's got a great manager. They're very strategic about their path.
Yes.
But still cutting, like when you go back to Nova, since when this week they're going to add 2 records. Justin Bieber puts out a new record. Rihanna puts a new record out. Whoever else, Kendrick's dropped a new record. Grant Smiley's got this new thing. Like, what are you adding? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's incredibly hard for these new artists to get any cut through. It's actually like nigh on impossible.
It could be harder.
It's harder.
Plus, everyone's attention is different now. They're listening to podcasts.
But therein lies the answer, right? Who gives a fuck about the radio? That doesn't necessarily have to form part of your strategy.
No.
And if that doesn't form part of your strategy and don't worry about it, then off to the races. Do something else.
I love that. Do you think about the music that's played inside your venues, the hospitality venues as well?
For sure.
Tell us through the mindset on, like, let's take a Marmont. Are you like, right, the vibe has to be X, it's got to have this BPM, or
for sure.
To
I
what
think it's
level?
just like you set certain scenes. You've got to sit there and say, what does a daytime look like? What does a nighttime look like?
Yep.
If in the event that it's busier than you think and there's not a DJ on, do we go to this kind of party kind of environment, which is not necessarily party, but stuff that will be more familiar, a bit more energetic? Because there's nothing worse than sitting there. It's either, I can tell you one of the worst experiences I've had at a restaurant, which I thought was going to be amazing, is they're playing, top 40 Ariana Grande, I love her, she's unreal, but not necessarily at lunchtime blaring in a venue. I'm like, I thought this place was cool. This is just playing like top 40 stuff.
Makes a difference.
It's just,
Did you see Marmont transition, particularly over those summer months, from dinner into dance, and how do you connect that?
well, that's probably the biggest and hardest thing of the whole projects. I
Well,
think
it's the hardest because that's what you do in Europe. It's what you do when you're on holiday. But how do you bring that holiday mentality into your everyday?
Well, that is hard. Money is a hard thing to do that. You go there to do that because for those 3 months of the year, that's what happens. So
The mindset's different.
Well, you go there with the expectation that whatever cash is in my pockets probably won't be there when I leave today. You know what
That's
I mean?
a good point.
But and equally, if you say, are you a restaurant or a bar or like a nightclub, all those kind of things, as soon as you traverse into an area where it becomes like a dancing kind of venue, I think you lose a lot of your credibility as a restaurant. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, because that trumps the
That's what
experience.
Nick Russian called a clubstaurant, remember?
That's
Club
right.
strong.
I mean, that's what the Delilahs and whatever else that, it's sort of similarly kind of positioned in LA and what he sort of does with his venues. And it's kind of, but it becomes then, how do you position that venue? And is it going to be, do you want to be in the Good Food Guide? Do you want to be in those kind of things? And to do both I'd say is nigh on impossible. But you can do many things. So I say we operate 90% of the time as a normal restaurant. We're open at noon. We travel all day doing afternoon drinks, this, that, the other. And then on Friday and Saturday, which I think you get a bit more latitude anyway. I feel like come 10 o'clock, if you've already dined and you've already been in and out, as long as we sort of keep some sort of core level of like kind of deliverables and service.
And decorum.
All those things.
Yeah.
And then you can flip up into a sort of higher energy piece for those kind of windows. And we decided by design not to get a 3 a.m. I decided to keep a 1 a.m. with the ability to flex to 3 if we had a special event or otherwise I can go there. But I prefer...
Particularly being at Crown, you've got opportunity.
If you've got the Brownlow after party, should we do that? Sure, let's do it. But I don't think that every Friday night you want to be at 2:45 just, mopping up the dregs of society.
I was a busboy at Room nightclub when it first opened, mopping up the dregs of society when I was 18. It's not fun. It's not a great place to
It's
be.
also the spend per head and all those things these days after that late night economy, if you want to call it. It's not necessarily worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
No, I
No,
don't think
it's
so
not.
either.
There's not enough tapping.
No.
And so we are your friends, your business now. Not only are you doing your own hospitality events, you're also, venues, you're also helping others. Tell us about like who's come into you and asking you for, help with their, concepts, their ideas.
It's a bit of a new space for me because it's sort of like, I think there's been certainly a lot of interest in that space, but I'm still trying to drive the projects that I would like to do.
Yeah.
So in reality, it's sort of this business as usual, and it's kind of like if there's something that's sort of interest that comes along, I'm sort of like, well, that's interesting.
In a mentorship type capacity that has commercial.
Depends. Some people have great assets, but don't know how to get them to either
Can't
perform.
execute.
That's right. And so it's sort of like, what's the missing pieces here? Is it you're not getting the right team together? Is it not? Is it the actual kind of design or flow, or have we got like some substantial issues that need to be resolved? And if you've got someone who's prepared to address the faults that were previously there to fix the future, then I'll work with them. But it's a bit like saying to someone who goes, oh, it's fine, but just needs a bit of magic dust. I'm like, well, I'm not the fairy godmother. I can't fix everything with bullshit. It's got to have some substantial purpose and reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
So sure, I guess the answer to that question is I'm still finding my feet. It feels like 6 months back I've been so focused on making sure Marmont's there and looking at opportunities outside that have been like, how do we partner with some of these bigger brands? And, I think that's where the AFLs and F1s and things that we do exceptionally well in Melbourne is like, are there better hospitality opportunities that exist inside those?
Yes.
And knowing that that's going to be a 24, 36 month pipeline. These guys are committed to designing, things for the future.
Yes.
And for their followers as well.
That's right.
Their memberships and so forth. They work to 12-month timelines. So for you having the ability to lean on the location, the brand, your heritage within the industry, they're huge deals to pull together.
They take time. Like I'm one of the most excited people about next September, October when we have the NFL. We're going to have the semi-final, the NFL opening round, and then the grand final in the 3-week period. And what the AFL and the rest of and the NFL, what they come up with to master plan that thing, it's going to be insanity.
And are you getting involved now?
Talking.
Yeah.
But that's to your Marty's point before about coming back to Melbourne. Melbourne it's a unique place because in a global sense, we host one of the 4 Grand Slams. We're the only city in Australia with a Grand Prix. We have a huge horse racing carnival. You have, as you said, NFL coming over. NBA teams are coming to play.
Yep.
Like, we have a lot of global events that you can lean into. It's
There's a
huge.
lot. I think we punch so far above
Yeah.
our weight in Melbourne.
Oh, for our population, it's sickening what we can do.
But it's great. But you've got to then, we either just go through and do the basic minimum,
Yep.
which is just like everyone can do, and the people will come because it's kind of like, cool, it's on, that'll sell out, or can you make it something more significant of it? And I think that's what the challenge is. And what does it make it? Can we take whatever we create here to other parts of the world? You know, and I think that's sort of reverse engineering. Everyone looks to America and says, oh, what have you taken to bring back? And I think when you leave Australia, it's a detriment upon Australia, but if you leave Australia and you're successful, when you come back, there's obviously a bit of an open, bit more interest and kind of, if you can make it there, great, whatever. But in saying that, you shouldn't be fearful of any scenario where you put yourself in the hurt locker.
Yeah.
And I don't think we respect people's ability to try new things in Australia for what we already
No,
do
we cut them down.
all the time. Which one, left or right? We don't know. It's, you know, that's the vibe. But and look, that's okay because it's tall poppy, whatever you want to call it overseas. They still talk about it a lot. I just go, but jog on. Like, you either accept that's the case and you go, well, okay, I'm handicapping in the stall gift. I'm coming from behind, but I'm still going to get you. Doesn't matter. You know what
I
I mean?
like that. I'm still going to get you.
That's a good finish. Well, either way, mate, it's so good to chat to you. And, you know, if you're over in LA, make sure you check out EPLP, Strings of Life, all of your venues over there. And, of course, Marmont here. Mate, there's lots of exciting things to come. I can tell you've got even more bandwidth to do more. And a big thank you for, mate, the best clubbing years of my life, to be honest with you. I think back very fondly of those eras of dancing. I know Marty obviously does. It's where he met his wife.
I'll be in the car straight after this playing Flaunt It. I can guarantee you.
Grant Smillie, mate, thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, gents.
Thanks, mate.
Anytime.